The beast is in her heart, dummy. The tiger's in the pantry, dummy. You better rip her lungs out, dummy. I live for wine and song. The Robitussin's in your shorts, dummy. One of the big questions we get asked here at Abbey of the Lemur, and it is, I guess it does fall under the FAQ thing, frequently asked questions, is who the hell is the Boogieman and what the hell does he want from me? Well, if you're asking us that, well, I don't know what to say except we here at the Abbey are probably the ones who are best able to answer that question. Now, the Boogieman, it's a little known fact about him. He lives in Rockland, Mass. And he lives in a little bungalow in Rockland, Mass, on a street called Concord Street. And his favorite musical artiste is Casey and the Sunshine Band. A lot of people don't realize that, but then again, a lot of people probably wouldn't be surprised to know that. But he actually, if you ever want to get a look at the Boogieman and look at what he looks like, who he is, you know who he is. He looks like he's got a lucrative modeling career, so you see him around. He makes a lot of money. He has for years. He has since I was a little kid, actually. He's the guy you see on those cans of Underwood deviled ham. That's really him. That's really him. That's a genuine photograph. That's what he looks like dancing around and all that. And a lot of people don't realize that. They think that that's Satan. You know, they've been misled. But that's not Satan. That's the Boogieman. He's not some evil creeping thing that lives in your closet. He's the guy on the Underwood deviled ham cans. But, be that as it may, he does live in Rockland, Mass. And his favorite band is Casey and the Sunshine Band. And a lot of people don't know that. But one thing that you need to kind of keep in mind, thank God for the editing room. Anyway, kind of an important little story about the Boogieman is one day he woke up and he kind of puttered out into the main part of his house, the little bungalow he lives in. Little bungalow he lives in, incidentally. It's the little bungalow he lives in, incidentally, is it used to be kind of purplish gray, and then sometime later on he painted it red, but finally he just stripped it of all the kind of fake wood siding and just threw up like fiberglass siding on the outside of the house. So if you're driving down Concord Street in Rockland, Mass, you'll see it. You can't miss it, that little bungalow with the fiberglass siding on the outside. It's a real travesty, it's a real eyesore, but that's the way he likes it. Now, one day the Boogieman woke up and he went out to putter around in his kitchen. And he wanted to kind of fire up the coffee and have a good day. Maybe have a little breakfast. And so he started rummaging around in his cupboards, but he noticed that he didn't have any boogies left. And it's a real bummer for the Boogieman because, you know, the boogies are pretty much his sustenance, you know, which is how he got his nickname. His real name is unpronounceable by humans. But the Boogieman had no boogies. He looked in the cupboards. He looked down below in the lower cupboards. He looked in the fridge. Nothing. And he went down to the cellar and went rummaging around in there. He didn't find anything. He went down lower than that into his fruit cellar. But there was just a bunch of fruit in there. And I mean, truth to tell, the Boogieman doesn't care about fruit. That's just not his way, as it were. But the boogeyman did that whole thing. It was fruitless, so he went out to this little ditch that he dug in the backyard, and he had these mason jars full of boogies in the ditch. And he went out there, they were just kind of there. He saved them for a rainy day, and lo and behold, they were empty. Somehow, in the course of the night, the dogs had gotten in and maybe eaten all the boogies, but they were gone. Anyway, he was kind of at the end of his rope there, so he got in the boogie car and he drove down the street and he went to the boogie store. Now at the boogie store, there was this big guy behind the counter. Big guy, big sloppy looking guy with a big dirty apron, and he recognized the boogeyman right off because, since it's the boogie store, the boogeyman's his best customer. And he says to him, "Hi, Mr. Boogeyman." And the boogeyman says, "Hey, how you doing?" He says, "I'm doing pretty good." And he says, "I gotta get me some more boogies. I'm a little low on my supplies." And so the guy behind the counter says, "Well, we got all kinds of good stuff in today, all kinds of fresh stuff. We got, the green, the yellow, the brown, the red. We got the mixed." "I never had the mixed," said the boogeyman. What you got with the mix?" "The mix is good stuff. It's imported in from Peru. I'll give you a look. You can have a free sample." And so he gives the boogeyman a free sample, and the boogeyman's kind of big on getting that kind of stuff, and they're glad to give it to him because he's their best customer. But anyway, the guy in the apron just kind of takes the mixed boogies out of the mixed boogie bin and puts them in a cup and gives them to the boogeyman, and the boogeyman looks at him and says, "Oh, that looks pretty good." And so he kind of tosses down the boogies, the mixed, and he tastes them, and they're pretty good, and he's pretty happy. I said, "What else you got?" And so the boogie store apron guy says, "Well, I get all this stuff here. It's like I got this new red stuff. Yeah, the red stuff looks pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's imported from Argentina." And the boogeyman says, "Wow, that's a pretty rare kind of thing. What you got from Argentina?" And he decides, just take out this kind of Argentinian red boogies, and he puts them in a cup. And he puts them in a cup, gives them to the boogeyman. The boogeyman takes the cup and tries the red boogies from Argentina. And he's like, "Wow, those are pretty damn good." "Well, what can I do for you, Mr. Boogeyman? I get you to try some sample of the green." And the boogeyman says, "No, the sample of the green, that's not necessary. I had the green before. The green's pretty good. It's always pretty reliable. So I'll tell you what. I'll take some of the red and some of the green. I'll take maybe 2 jars of the green, and I'll take some of the mixed." And so he sets them up with a couple of jars of green and some of that fancy Argentinian red and some of the mixed, and sends them home. He's got his supply of boogies. He's doing pretty good. And he drives home and enjoys his boogies. And I don't know, to be honest with you, I forget how the joke ends. I just know it kind of goes on and on forever. It's an interminable joke. Interminable. And I know some point later on he goes to work because he sometimes works third shift in his factory. And they have this random drug test going, and they take him down for the drug testing, and they make him pee in a cup. And then later on, I think he goes through some kind of thing where he takes the boogie dog out for a walk or something like that. And I don't know, it just goes on and on forever, and just kind of seems to build and build and build toward this crescendo that it never really reaches. But yeah, you get the basic idea. That's pretty much all you need to know about the boogeyman.
I used to date this guy, and we just called him Esophagus Boy. And he had he had no gag reflex, which meant that, you know, he was kind of an oral whiz, if you know what I mean. And, you know, he could, 9 inches he could take it, no problem. So, anyway, he decided to see what all we could get down his throat with that and gagging. It's like a contest. And so I'm sitting there with this guy in a headlock, and I'm shoving a kielbasa down his throat. And, you know, we're doing the sausage thing, and it's like, so I'm sitting there tamping down his throat with bratwurst, you know, and he's not choking at all. And it's just kind of this amazing thing. But then I pushed it in a little too far, and he accidentally swallowed finally. And he swallows like a whole bratwurst. And I'm like, you know, this is too weird. And he's sitting there, you know, making these weird noises. He sounds like he's coughing up a terrible hole. And he's like, you know, and he's got this whole thing, and he's having a real hard time swallowing it. He's like suffocating. He's sitting there choking on a bratwurst, and suddenly the humor of it just overwhelmed me. And he's, bratwurst, and I'm like, wah! And I'm sitting there watching this fool choking to death on the sausage, and I'm laughing my guts out. And so anyway, he did manage to breathe again, but he had this very uncomfortable situation, and then it's, you know, his gastrointestinal system starts going berserk, you know, he has these cramps, and before you know it, you know, he's got a keel dose of diarrhea, and he's trying to pass a whole bratwurst, you know, and if you've ever tried to do that, you'll know how painful that this can be, you know, and he's sitting there trying to pass this bratwurst, but it's lodged in like diagonally or something, and he's sitting there like, you know, he's sitting there doing, you know, some kind of, you know, unusual, you know, like the Zuni death dance or something. I don't know, he's just doing this strange convoluted dance, you know, trying to, you know, trying to shit out a bratwurst the size of my forearm. You know, and it's just like I'm rolling on the floor. And it's like so funny. And yeah, that's Spake, Zarathustra. But anyway, so that was like esophagus for him. And he got arrested some years later for doing strange things to other men in a public rest stop. And so anyway, but that's the last I heard of Esophagus Boy. And he's just like...
He wasn't a priest at the time, was he?
He was not a priest, but should have been. This is what happens when you get hillbilly drugs. You just look like such a mountain man in that hat. It's Cousin Andy. It's Cousin Andy's Tampax Jamboree.
And there's still hunger everywhere but here.
Give us those beady little eyes. What you giving us?
Not that
Give
eye,
us a-
anything but that eye.
You give us Jism face number 1. Jism face number 2.
Jism face number 3. That's the one I was looking for.
You win, sir. And what does he win? He can be buggered with a table leg until dead. Tell him what wonderful prizes he's won. How much is I ask you, how much is this worth to you? $19.95? 50 Icelandic shekels? That's so pitiful.
One Icelandic cow yak.
He's pitiful. He's a pitiful hillbilly critter. Folks. He's too silly. He's Andrew the gorilla. He's got man tits. That's the name of this band. It's Man Tits, the one-man band.
I used to be a star on the tap dancing circuit, but I don't know, one day I was tap dancing to Iron Butterflies and I got a DeVita, and like I broke my ankle, and so anyway, it didn't work out well, and I just busted the crap out of my ankle, and so I don't dance anymore. But anyway, strange careers that I've had other than what I presently do. And trying to think of some other gems. I used to work in a funeral, and there was a guy there who liked to play with the dead people, you know what I mean? And he's really a necrophiliac. And so anyway, so I helped prepare corpses with this necrophilia dude, and he was just so fetish oriented. I mean, he's so driven by his desire that he didn't really care if I was standing there or not. And so anyway, he's rubbing himself off and he's feeling, you know, these dead people and getting his jollies, you know. And I'm thinking, you know, someday I've got to put this in a book, you know. And he's just really strange, this guy. And I knew it was going to get weird on that job when he refers to the corpses as babes, you know. Okay, this is a little weird, you know. And so we'd be embalming them, you know. And he's referring to him, the babes were embalming. It looks like a dead chick to me. And but anyway, dead young people especially he would get into. And, you know, if the families of the people in question found out about any of this, why they'd have his head on a platter. And I don't totally know where I stand on the whole thing. He's not hurting the person or anything, but it may be in defiance of their wishes somehow. And consensuality when you're dead is not exactly an issue. But anyway, yeah. So there really are necrophiles out there who do work in the funeral homes, and I had the pleasure of working with one.
Are you still in touch with this person?
No. He almost, I did hear through the grapevine that he almost got in trouble for messing about with a dead 14-year-old. And he about got, well, he did get caught at it. And,
Well, my whole question there, I mean, you know, maybe you can shed some light on it. Is it pedophilia if the minor in question is dead?
to me it probably is, but you get into some weird areas there. And,
that's the whole thing where intent is pretty much everything.
yeah, well, I did come across another necrophile later on in my life, and I did ask about those kinds of things, and he said, no, it's not pedophilia, you know, it's just, and age stops being an issue when you're deceased. And, but anyway, no, the 14-year-old this guy was messing with, you know, she was kind of a hit and run victim.
And so anyway, he got his jollies with her a couple of times before the actual viewing, and he still couldn't quite keep his hands off her, so it was risky because she's there in the casket, laid out for the viewing, and he's still trying to get his jollies, and pretty much got caught at it, but the person who caught him kept her mouth shut, so, but it was a close call, and that was, like one of the last things I heard about the guy, but he's into necrophilia and will be for life. But yeah, working in a funeral home is real interesting. And people react strangely to death. And, one of the things that you do, because you have to prepare the body, you have to do all these things. And sometimes if it's a rush job of some sort, you end up actually doing some of their hair and stuff yourself, pretty hands-on job, but you also have to deal with the relatives, which is always the nuisance, and so you have all these people coming in, and you have to comfort them, or you pretend to anyway, and after about your 150th funeral, you really stop giving a rat's ass one way or the other.
You kind of have a script going, right?
Oh yeah, and the thing to do, after a while you start seeing them as cattle, and so you just kind of have to herd them from one place to the other. You herd them into the mortuary chapel, you have the service, you herd them out to the gravesite, and, run the whole parade and then go back and start figuring up the itemized bills. And so anyway, and there are people that get pretty weird about it, and they're like screaming on the floor and stuff, and it's just so undignified. And they're screaming and yelling and carrying on, and it's like they'd be carrying on a hell of a lot worse if they could have seen you in the back room and what you were actually doing to dearly departed's corpse, Like, oh, I wanted to have his Masonic ring on. Oh, I want her to be wearing the wedding ring, Well, those things go on a hell of a lot easier if you break their fingers, and and stuff like that. Oh, what a pleasant expression. Yeah, because we sewed his mouth, and people just don't realize this stuff. And I always thought old style mummification could be interesting, when you're drawing out, where you're drawing out parts through the nasal cavity and stuff. So that'd be kind of fun, And you just kind of hooking out, brain and other matter, and pulling it right out the snot hole, I thought that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, didn't you tell me something about having actually seen a mummified body at a flea market?
That's true. That's absolutely true. And I did see, I saw one definite mummy on sale at a flea market, and saw another that I suspected was a mummified body. And they were using it, of all things, they were using it as a dressmaker's dummy. And it was a Native American mummified woman who had died in Victorian times. And it was so incredibly bizarre. And I don't know what the bottom of her body looked like, and I think they may have cut off her legs and mounted them on some kind of a thing. I don't know. And then there's this long Victorian dress that covers it, and you can see her dead hands poking through the sleeves, and they're using her like as a dress model. And so yeah, it's pretty trippy. And but the mummification process is interesting, whether natural or intentional mummification. And and mummification has become back in, it's come back in style. In fact, it's all the rage out in California. You can get mummified. There's this one company that handles most of them. But anyway, I thought briefly about getting mummified, but it's kind of an over-attachment to the corporal body. I mean, it's, you know, I might even consider going for a green funeral, which is where they just put you in a kind of a wicker basket sort of affair and bury you in the ground without embalming, and then you return to nature. And, you know, that wouldn't be so bad. And if I'm gonna rot, I might as well rot usefully and let some varmints have lunch, you know. And, you know, I could roll with that being picked clean by, you know, various worms and grubs. And, you know, and it's just kind of a neat thought, because, you know, you end up becoming worm shit, you know. But, you know, that helps the soil, and you have worms munching on your body, but the worms themselves die and get munched up by other things. And it's just kind of this beautiful salute to the food chain. A monument to the lumber industry. Private joke, folks. Not as much a private joke as your genitalia, but a private joke nonetheless. The Spake Zarathustra.
Save the bismuth.
Oh God, I'm really regret so much.
When we look back on how brilliant we thought we really were,
That was something does. Anyway. Bismuth? Pink. Bismuth is pink.
Electro Nixon's pink bismuth jamboree.
Electrogism is pink bismuth.
Pink bismuth just bismuth as usual.
And I played this joke out for the tourism. Lots of like gold. But pink bismuth, who would call it Friday? It's killing me here. Hey, we're gonna make it sound attractive.
Excuse me. My lungs aren't what they used to be. Alrighty. Now we come to the public service announcement part of our show, and this little statement is out to all of you who don't like the show, and I don't give a rat's puckered ass if you don't like the show. All of you who complained about the show and whined about the show and cried to the city about the show and I don't know, became wannabe TV stars appearing on the evening news crying about the show. Darren, you know who you are. And I just kind of wanted to make a few statements here to kind of put y'all in your place, or to scare you more. I really don't care which. You should cry to the city some more. I mean, because it's going to get worse. You people don't even know. Just wait till I get through with your sorry asses. And in situations like this, I reserve the right to get loaded. Now then, meet my pet chicken. My little chicken's name is John Holmes. I call him that because he's a cock-a-doodle-doo. This is the chicken, and you've heard about Abbey and the Lemur and what we do to chickens, haven't you? I think you guys had better do something because we're going to kill this chicken. You better be careful. We're going to kill the chicken on the air. I'm going to kill the chicken right here. See, I'm threatening the chicken. I'm physically attacking the chicken here. And I know it's only a plastic chicken. It's only a fake chicken. But you guys should complain just because, I don't know, of the irresponsibility of choking a plastic chicken. You guys should just really be upset, and you should really be offended, and you should really take umbrage because you're too stupid to do otherwise. You're too stupid to get the joke. But you really should do something. You really should complain, complain to the city, complain to Fred Hanna, complain to all the newspapers and TV stations, because we're so evil that we'll actually choke a plastic chicken. We'll pretend to kill a chicken. Maybe, I know it's all fake, it's not a real chicken, but you guys should maybe complain, or maybe you should call up and pretend to complain. Maybe complain in effigy because I'm killing a chicken in effigy. Look, I can do a geek show if you want me to. I'll go as far as you want me to here. I don't care. Because you people are so stupid, you probably will complain. But, here's John Holmes. He's doing fine, but I'm going to bite him again. See? You idiots really should complain. You really should call to the station and cry and whine right now. Imagine the horror. I could really, beat the plastic thing from under this chicken's feet. This fake chicken might just suffer so much. Call right now. Complain to the station. Complain to the city. Complain to Fred Hanna or whoever, CEO or, whichever guy's burning coffee on his crotch in a car or whatever. It doesn't matter. you know, because I'm still gonna like pretend to kill this plastic chicken. And I don't think he's gonna hold out much longer. You better take pity. You better take pity on the poor chicken. See the poor chicken? The poor plastic make-believe chicken? I'm making believe. I'm pretending I'm killing the chicken. You better do something fast or I might just go too far. You know, Jeffrey Dahmer started out this way, you know, I mean, killing plastic. You better do something. You better do something because you don't want deviants like me scaring and infecting your children. You know, they may all grow up to like, you know, beat on pieces of plastic too, you know. Or worse, they may just look at all your overreactions and realize that their parents, that the town fathers, that everyone out there was supposed to set an example for them and supposed to lead them, and whose authority that they're supposed to follow are assholes, and we don't want that, but it's the truth. You people are just pieces of garbage. So do something about it. Stop me. Stop me. Complain about the plastic chicken. Cry and scream to the city about the plastic chicken. And sit here and abuse the plastic chicken. You guys are such dicks. Oh, man. And you're all just going to whine and cry. Oh, it's teaching our kids to be irresponsible. I'm teaching your kids to think straight. And they're going to get to realize just all the authority figures that they've been trained and beaten and told to respect all these years are just full of it. Come to me, kids. Come to me. It's all right. I understand. It's all right. I know they're full of it. You know they're full of it. Together we can destroy them all. Anyway. See you later, guys.
bet that you would like to screw in a thin pool of our blood. We bet that you are throbbing with concern for us. We just bet that you wish us all the best.